Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at the 10 things we can do to help us deal with the cost of living crisis. I'm pretty sure guys you're aware that every time we seem to be going to the shop looking at the food prices, they are pretty much going through the roof on a weekly basis, if not actually sometimes on a daily basis. So a couple of days ago, I've done a video when we talked about inflation, which is now 5.3%, and the predictions that our average food prices are going to be going up by £275 an average shop for an average family. And of course, thereafter, guys, I had some messages from you asking what do I do and how do I deal with other scenarios? How do I do my shopping, basically? Because for all of you who follow my little shopping displays to things that I buy for myself or the Prepper Pantry, I do quite often say now that I choose to leave certain things behind or no longer can afford to buy them because the prices are absolutely ridiculous. So this is, guys, the reason for this video. First of all, it's important to understand, of course, we're all in a different positions. You know, we all have different family, different size of family. We eat different things. It is totally understandable. And that list of the things I'm going to be talking about, of course, some of the things you might already do. Another thing, again, to understand, guys, that to what we think we need to survive or actually lead a healthy food diet, if you wish, is actually far less than what we imagine. So the portion control is also rather important. And of course, the last thing to mention, the position I'm in, because again, of course, as I said, we're all in the different positions, we all do different things. So luckily for me, okay, I have chickens. I don't have many chickens now, but I still have 5 chickens and I do have my own eggs. So one of the things I don't have to do is to buy my own eggs. Another thing, luckily again, I have a friend who's got a husband that goes fishing on a fairly regular basis, and he brings me a rainbow trout if I do ask them to do so. So in this instance, again, I'm saving myself some money that I don't have to buy a fish if I choose not to. It does give us a couple of portions a month, and of course as well, I do make little fish fingers for my little one as well. And of course, again, if you follow the channel, guys, that you do know that I do grow quite well. I'm trying to grow as much as possible. In the winter time, it doesn't really produce me much, but obviously I do the best as I can for the summer month. And then of course I preserve and do other things. So things like jam, I don't have to buy jams and jellies, frozen things that I make like tomato sauces. I do buy, but very little. So guys, without further ado, let's kick off with the list. So first of all, guys, when you do your shopping, whether you're buying the fruits, vegetables or meats, you look at the tiny print, which it tells you price per item or price per 100 grams or price per kilo. Because the supermarket do the deceiving thing that they put you just a price, okay, in the big letters, and it is very difficult to make a comparison. But if you do have a look on the bottom, every supermarket will tell you the price per gram, or sorry, price per 100 grams or price per kilo. So this way, when you are looking at the comparison of the products, you can make a better choice that will save you money. At the same time, sometimes they do offer, say, 2 for £3. Again, it's very important to compare what you get by the grammage versus the original product. Because sometimes as well, the prepackaged, say, apples could cost you more than you buying apples individually. And of course, at the same time, it could work the other way around. So it is very important to consider looking for price per kilo or price per 100 grams or individual item price. The next one, it, again, comes with no surprise, guys, but do shop the yellow or red labels. And again, originally, I was a little bit shy when we come into, say, looking at the reduced sections. But now, I pretty much honestly tell you guys, this is the first place I'll go and look. Because, as we know, prices, especially on the meat, are through the roof. And this is one of the things that constantly increasing in price. So please, don't be shy to look at the reduced areas. And I know some of you say if you do live in a busy area, there might not be enough of the yellow labels and things do go quickly, but do not be shy. First of all, look, and do not be shy. Ask your supermarket staff, local supermarket that you go to, ask them what time they do reductions, because quite often in some supermarkets like Tesco's, they do reductions 3 times a day, the last one being 7 o'clock. This is in my one. It could be different anywhere else, but in my local Asda, they do reductions first thing in the morning. So this is where I do go and get my bargains. I do my school run, and if I need to go out that direction, I'll go to Asda and I pick up some bargains. Again, because many people get confused if you see a meat on the reduced price and the date it is today, because well, this is the reasons there is in reduced section, is either running out today or tomorrow. And people seem to avoid that because they think, well, it's not going to be any use to you if you're not intending to cook that meat today. But of course, we all know, or should know, guys, that use by date are safe because you can bring them home and then you can freeze the items, right? The food, meat, fish, whatever, and they'll sit in the freezer for a very, very long time. At the same time, when you do this, right, don't be lazy to separate and portion this up unless you do your batch cooking. The example I'll give you, and again, I was guilty of this myself. If I'm busy, I picked up a few bits and pieces and I say bought myself a pack of 8 or 10 pork chops for say 2 or 3 pounds. Sometimes I said I've done this before. I came home, I needed to do something and I just run this in the freezer and that was that. Forgotten about it and I thought, oh, I'll deal with this at a later date. But of course, like now it's frozen, I have 10 pieces of pork chops. So when I come to cook them, okay, that means I have to defrost all of them at the same time because generally it's really difficult to separate pork chops after they're frozen in a pack. So that means I have to cook all of the 10 pork chops. But if it's only 3 of us in the family, yes, we can eat them for, say, the next day, but generally this is potentially could be a waste of the meat. So please don't be lazy. If you don't want to use that, if you don't do batch cooking, be it even the same with the mincemeat. If it's just one of you and a pack of 1 kilo, 750 grams is too much, just come home, just literally open it up. Even if you just put this in a food bag without the vacuum sealer, separate this in a portion and put this in the freezer. You'll have no waste whatsoever. Right, next thing is to understand what is worth buying in bulk. Things like the rices, the beans, the lentils, a lot of things you can buy from the food wholesalers online quite often works out to be cheaper. Things like spices, and I think we talked about this before. If you go to a supermarket and if you don't grow your own herbs and spices, you might look at the little jar of anything, say oregano. It might cost you £2.99 for like, yeah, little tiny jar, 100 grams, whatever it might be. And then of course you can go and have a look online and you'll find that you probably can buy a kilo's worth or half a kilo for an extra £1 more. So that's saving you money. At the same time, not everything that's in a bulk size actually worth extra money. For a good example I give you, and this is again from experience I've had from you guys, from your feedback, say spaghetti. Okay, we're looking at say Asda or Lidl spaghetti, 28p for 500 grams. And yet somebody before commenting saying, well, apparently a Lidl do a really good deal on XL size spaghetti from one of these special weeks. And it was 1 kilo of spaghetti for like £2 or £1.99. So technically it might sound like a good idea. It sounds very cheap. You have a good kilo of spaghetti for just under £2. But if you have a look at the standard range or any supermarket of spaghetti, it's 28p for half a kilo. That means you're going to be saving yourself money if you were to buy the supermarket basic spaghetti rather than buying yourself the XL pack. So hopefully it makes sense. Of course, at the same time, I understand not everybody needs to have things in bulk because again, if it's just one of you, then I totally understand. You might not want to buy this in a bulk, but do consider if you do have friends and family that, you know, want to prepare or stock up their Prepper's Pantry or generally in the same position where you want to kind of, you know, beat the cost of living crisis, this is something to consider of buying this together and then splitting the goods. But next thing, guys, we're talking about the fresh versus frozen. Of course, in a lot of cases, we do encourage, or I do encourage you to buy fresh where possible, but at the same time, it's very important to understand potentially the benefits of a frozen foods. Sometimes, okay, frozen vegetables, in fact, or frozen fruits are picked at the best of times. So technically, they'll be much fresher than the fresh fruit you buy in the supermarkets because generally, well, we know they'll sit there for good months and sometimes years, not years, but a year if we're talking about like potatoes and apples, that sort of thing. And of course, guys, we're talking about the price comparison as well. So you need to know your prices of the things that you buy fresh and versus frozen. So for example, one of the good examples, we're talking about spinach. Okay, so a bag of spinach in Tesco's, it's now over £2. And you don't get very much. You know, we're talking about, I think, probably half a kilo, maybe 500 grams, 600 grams, that sort of thing. But if you should compare this to frozen, you can buy yourself a good solid bag of over 1 kilo for less money. And at the same time, again, I've covered this in a video, sometimes it's cheaper to buy your fresh produce on deal and then freeze that. Perfect example was, guys, the peppers. When I did the video a few months back, Lidl did peppers and each pepper was 35p and they were absolutely huge because they were loose, and you can pick, of course, the size that you wanted. But those peppers, some of the weight, I think 300, 400 grams for 35p. So to me, they would have worked out to be cheaper, and I did, to buy a few of the peppers, chop them up yourself, and then put them in the freezer. So the point is, right, don't be scared of the frozen food, but at the same time, please understand and compare the prices. So have a look on the spinach, okay, the weight of the spinach, and don't forget when you cook it, shrivels up into the nothing, and then compare this to the weight of the frozen spinach. Have a look at the peppers, work out the grammage of what you get, and then compare this to the frozen peppers. And of course, this is applicable to all of the products you buy. Just make sure you know the prices, fresh versus frozen. So next one, it goes without saying, is avoid pre-prepared fruits, vegetables, all those sort of things, because for more than just one reason, guys, for more than just the price. First of all, I'm pretty sure you're aware the certain things that the processes, the fruits and veg and salads go through before they're packaged. And if not, I will probably do the food exposed video, because again, it is a pretty shocking. Considering, for example, you think your pre-cut salad is really fresh, because this is the words and the tactics they use to say, freshly, crunchy, that sort of thing. But the fact is, by the time that salad reaches that bag in the supermarket shelf, it could be already approximately 10 days old. So this part aside, right, just have a look for the past few months, okay, about the recalls and things been happening. And it's majority done with the pre-packaged, pre-cut, pre-sliced, pre-prepared foods. Things like a salmonella and some other bacteria that have been found in the salads, in the fruit bowls. It is absolutely horrendous. So this side apart, okay, the pricing is absolutely huge. So again, let's talk about the salad. If you don't grow your own salad, a bag of a salad, a little bag that goes slimy as soon as you get it home, it's approximately, let's say, 129 to over £2, depending on the brand. Still a lettuce, still salad. But if you consider the weight of that bag, it's generally, a couple hundred grams, if that. And then if you then compare, say, a head of lettuce, we're looking at 89p, and in some instances, they are rather huge, especially recently. So I understand, okay, lettuce is a lettuce, it's not a variety of the salad, but obviously there are other salad leaves you can buy loosely rather than pre-cut, and it will still work out to be much cheaper. Another good thing, for example, like potatoes. And I know the potato chips, and I had to succumb recently to buy a frozen pack of like McDonald's type fries. Again, it was a special treat for my little one. Not going to go into the details, but the price of the frozen chips is horrendous. And apart from the price of almost £4 for a tiny bag, that's not even a kilo, we're talking, have a look on the label and see what they're fried in, because they are pre-fried, pre-cooked in all sorts of oils. So healthy thing aside, and the price, right, it's a massive difference. So less than 1 kilo of frozen potatoes will cost you £4. Maybe a budget brand will be a little bit less. And, well, it will be a little bit less, I do apologize, but I do remember buying one before, and all I found in that budget bag of potatoes is just like tiny little, it's basically like, not a sawdust, but tiny pieces of potato that weren't really the chips. So this is aside, the kilo of potato you can buy from Lidl or Tesco's for approximately £1.29. 1 kilo for pretty much the quarter of the price. And I know some people will be saying, well, we all live, busy lives. I don't have time to do the potato chips. Maybe they don't taste as well. Well, obviously, because they're not going to be soaked in all sorts of fats. But consider that as well. Do you batch preparedness, right? And again, I've done this before, like last November or something, when we talked about the vegetables that are currently on deal, especially if you can pick them up for 5p, 15p, whatever they were, around the Christmas time. Yes, it's going to, take you time to prepare, but we're talking about dealing with the crises, and it's going to be getting any worse. Buy a bag of potatoes, get the family involved, get this peeled, get this blanched if you wanted to, or if not, and then put this in the freezer. You are going to be saving yourself tons and tons on the unsaturated and fats that potatoes covered in, and B, you're going to be saving yourself tons on money. And of course, another thing as well, not many of us consider sometimes buying individual vegetables. And we're talking about, let's say, carrots or parsnips. Quite often, we're going to supermarkets and we pick up a bag of carrots because, it's like 69p now, whatever. Kilo, maybe a little bit more. Again, important to compare, because you might just go for the cheapest price, say 69p, but For 10p, you might be able to get yourself another half a kilo, if that makes sense. Again, pay attention to the weights in a corner. But of course, you know, you can buy yourself a carrot individually. So if out of interest, if you wanted to, say, if you cook in specific meal and you just wanted to have one carrot and you know you're not going to be eating the rest of them, then you can just go in the supermarket and buy one carrot. And it'll cost you approximately 7 to 12p, depending on the size of the carrot. But the options are there. So if you are really struggling for your weekly shop and you only want one thing, just consider doing that as well. So next thing is number 6 is to plan around your offers, but at the same time, please do not get caught. And I totally understand it might not be always possible, but do pay attention and do understand your pricing, because quite often, and it's not just me that spotted that, you have something that says a big sticker saying it's an offer and it's currently, you know, £3.99 for a kilo of something or whatever. But in fact, that price was always £3.99. It's because a lot of people don't pay attention to the things that they buy or the prices, because they put a sticker on there saying it's on offer, automatically makes you think it's a good deal. But of course, not always is. But on the opposite side, of course, when they do certain deals, then it's very important to be able to spot the deal. And then if you do use those items a lot, then stock up on them if you can. And the good example, again, I'll give you, and I covered this when I did my last shopping haul video, example of a Kit Kat, right? They did the coffee flavored Kit Kats reduced at Asda from £2, like 45 or something, to literally 50p for a multi-pack. And I tell you that, right, this is definitely not a priority. Okay, again, we as a people in general, I'll not speaking for myself because I don't need that sort of stuff. We don't need much of the processed food or ultra processed food, but occasionally somebody likes to take one for lunch. So that Kit Kat was on clearance at 50p because nobody wanted to buy them. So automatically me getting my thinking hat on, thinking, well, I do buy the occasional either the penguin bars or some other bars for somebody to take to lunch. Well, technically now 50p, all right, is a better quality chocolate. Okay, it's more tastes better, so better flavor profile. But the fact is, if I then buy a few of them, that means few months ahead or however long they're going to last me, I don't have to spend that £1 or even more than £1, because majority of things are. So hopefully that makes sense. Of course, I'm not suggesting you buy yourself and stock up on the chocolates on crisps, because again, all of that adds on to, well, first of all, it's unhealthy, and secondly, adds on to the food prices quite a lot, which hopefully I'll speak to you about that in a minute. But generally, if you see anything else that's on deal, then if you can, just buy a few and put this in the pantry. Because this is, again, one of those kind of things to help us to prepare for the further inflations. Right, next thing, right, we're talking about, and some of you will find this, not say controversial, but we're talking about the club card and so little card. If you don't have one, okay, then I suggest you probably do. I totally understand, right? They're monitoring what we do, they're monitoring what we buy. I totally understand that, okay? It happens in many ways than one. They know. They basically, the nanny state knows exactly what we do, what we buy. So I understand it may be a bit not like Prepper to think, well, you know, you shouldn't really tell them what you're buying. But at the end of the day, we're talking about the, not say survival, but we're talking about saving money and ability to actually still to be able to have a healthy life and healthy food is to be able to save money. And many of you know, and many of you notice that the price advantage of having, say, a Tesco Club Card, it's a huge difference in prices on certain things. And I gotta say, I have them and I have a little app, because with a little app as well, if you do your shop, you earn certain, or when you spend certain amount, you get freebies. They're only little things, but you just get some. First of all, you get like free bakery. Sometimes you get free granolas. Sometimes you get some money off. And then when you come to the end of, if you spend £250 a month, I think you get a 10% off your next shop. It's not a huge amount, but if you do shop a little all the time, it's something to consider, because all those bits you get for free, they still add up to the money that you then don't have to spend. Again, it is totally personal choice, but as I said, I have them both and I use them both, and I do think they're worthy when we're talking about that saving some money. Right, next one is, again, applicable to some, and I know we talked about it before on the live chat, when we talked about people saying they're trying to, or struggling to with the cost of living crisis, and yet still go and buy themselves a branded goods. And we're talking about food in this instance. So my point is to you, stop being a brand snob, okay? If we're struggling for money, we want to save money, then just just nip it in the bud. I understand some things are potentially a little bit better in terms of the branded produce, but generally, if you compare the Aldi and Lidl, there's been tons and tons of research done to prove that the taste test for those brands, cheaper brands, are far better than the leading brands. So if you are one of those people that, oh, well, I will buy the specific pesto or specific baked beans, maybe consider of actually buying the cheaper one, giving this a try, and actually find out, okay, it might not taste perfect or the same as what you used to, but if it saves you a quarter of the price, then why not give it a go? So next thing we're talking about is the cook once, eat twice. And we're talking about potentially the batch cooking. So if you do have, say, a spare weekend or you bought something on the deal, consider batch cooking your foods, be it a stews, be it a lasagnas, and then freezing them. So if you are normally short on time after work, then you can just pop into the freezer, get this out obviously the day before or the same morning before you go to work, and then you have a healthy meal ready. At the same time, also trying to minimize the waste. So think, for example, like the roast chicken. Again, I don't know whether many people do this, but personally myself, we have a roast dinner. I normally try to get the biggest chicken I can, so I buy the extra large. So it feeds us as a family of 3 for the roast dinner. Then it will do is a lunch or 2 for 2 people, depending what we're doing. Then, okay, I can do a stock from the leftover bones, and the leftover chicken is there. I can make a chicken noodle soup. So we're talking about 3 options of meals from just one chicken. So again, I'm saying not trying to be lazy. So if you do have a little bit of chicken left with a little bit of bones, a lot of people maybe just throwing this away or put this in the food recycling, but there's still tons of meat and tons of flavor left that even with the tiniest amount of just making a chicken noodle soup, it gives you a lot of goodness, it's healthy, and again, you'll be saving you some money. And of course, guys, the last one is to get yourself a prepper pantry. I talk about this a lot. Obviously, as a prepper, I do have a fully stocked pantry. Make sure that you do rotate stuff. But the importance of realization that if you bought something for your prepper pantry, say last year, and is now doubled or quadrupled in price, you know you're saving yourself money. Even now going forward, all right, things are through the roof, but things are never getting any cheaper. This is, as I said, we've been conditioned to the time to understanding that whatever we buy now, okay, this is a norm, and people get used to this. But things are not going to get any cheaper. Things are only going to be getting worse. So the point is now, if you can buy something on the deal, put this away in your prepper pantry, you're automatically saving yourself money for the future. For example, again, I've seen and I've bought some tomato ketchup. I do make my own, I pressure candy, but I still do buy it because it's just that much easier, and of course it sits in my prepper pantry. Again, considering the prices of the branded tomato ketchup and comparing now the prices of the supermarket version, right? The supermarket version has now gone up in price by 30-40p, and now approximately 99 pence or £1.19 thereabouts. But I popped into Home Bargains and I've seen that they did the branded version, a bigger bottle, for £1.49. So to me, okay, yes, it's a little bit more, but it was a far bigger size. So to me, I bought a few and I put them in my prepper pantry. So this way, further on, when I need to buy some, I don't need to. Price will be higher, but I'll already be having this in my shelf. So hopefully, guys, it does kind of make sense. To having your stocked up pantry, okay, it kind of safeguards us from the future inflation. Not for forever, absolutely not, but something better than nothing. And this is where the growing or ability or possibility, in fact, to be able to grow your own stuff, so you can at least minimize your expenditure on certain things that you can grow at home. So like lettuces, a lettuce head was 89, well still is 89 pence. I don't buy lettuce because I grow my own, different varieties, but I don't have to. So if we go through, say, 2 heads of lettuces a week, I'm saving myself just under £2 a week by growing my own. Things like the tomatoes, I grow my own tomatoes. I'm going to make some pasta sauces, pickles, or in fact cucumbers into the pickles, my berries into the jams and jellies. So all the stuff that I'm making is A, is going to be healthier, and B, something I don't have to buy later down the line. And in generally, again, if you watch the portions, from the minor, my garden is rather small. Pretty sure I can maintain my supply of the fruits, vegetables, preserves, that sort of thing, just from my really, really tiny growing space. And the last thing I'm going to say this, the bonus number, if you call it, number 11 is, again, I'm not telling anybody how to do their shop, how to live their life, but avoid ultra-processed food at any cost. The ultra processed foods, guys, this is what you first see when you go into the supermarket. You meant to call food, which is not. We're talking about the super expensive crisps. There's some leading brands of crisps. We're talking under £2 for the little tube. The other brands of crisps in the packet, they are horrendous. They're more than doubled in price for the past year. Chocolates, biscuits, all of that stuff is A, quite a lot unnecessary, B, very, really unhealthy, and C, are super expensive. So if you do want to potentially cut your shopping bill, they're trying to avoid those kind of things. And if it's not possible, because I get it, we all need a little bit of treat, whether it be a glass of wine, a beer, or chocolate, or biscuit, absolutely fine. But obviously consider replacing the potential brands with the cheaper options, because honestly, I'm sure you know, if you do go and pay attention, the prices on certain those foods, the unhealthiest ones, are absolutely horrendous. So in theory, the point is, okay, it is cheaper and far better for you to eat fresh than to buy pre-processed foods. So there we are, guys. I'm going to leave this at that. I do hope you have enjoyed this video and find this helpful. I totally understand not everything will be applicable to everybody. We all have different jobs, different locations where we live, different shops that we can have access to. What we eat is totally different, but hopefully at least one or 2 points there are going to be giving you food for thought and hopefully helping you to deal with the future price increases. So there we are. Anyway, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Please don't forget, thumbs up, subscribe if not a subscriber. It really does help the channel a lot. Otherwise, thank you for watching and I shall see you soon. Bye bye.